Hello, and again, in this video we are going to learn how to use the first method. Remember we said there are four methods. We have factorization, which usually turns out to be everyone's favorite. We have formula, then we have completing the squares, which is my favorite. Then we have graphing, right? So everybody at some point has to have, a favorite. So we'll just keep this and we are going to start with factorization, the idea of factorization. Alright, so here's what factorization says. It's a very simple idea. Okay, so track with me. If two numbers, if P times Q equals 0, if P times Q equals 0, then one of them must be 0. Think about it. The only way you can get two numbers to multiply themselves to give you 0 is if one of the numbers themselves is 0. So if I have any function, if I can rewrite it as a product of two factors, then I can equate each of those factors to 0, and then I'll get the possible solutions, because one of them must be 0 if both of them, multiply to give you 0. It's not difficult. It's actually not difficult. The whole idea is just to be able to factorize properly. If you can factorize properly, then everything else is fine. All right. Our first problem here we have is 2x squared minus 9x plus 10. So let's bring out our back, right? So drag out a is 2, b is negative 9, and then c is 10. So we'll do our BAC. So negative 9 and 20, right? So two numbers we can multiply to give us 20, but add to give us negative 9. You can pause and think about it for a bit, but I will just hurry through it. The factors of 20 that will do that obviously are 5 and 4, right? But then how do we place the signs? It has to be minus 5 minus 4. So when you find the numbers, you now need to work around the signs. Am I going to put plus, minus, minus, minus to be able to get the desired solution? So it's minus, minus. So we use this to substitute 9, negative 9 there. We'd have 2x squared minus 5x minus 4x plus 10 is equal to 0. Next, so we need to factor now. So we take the first one. I can just do a dotted line here to separate them. From this first part here, I can factor out x. I'll be left with 2x minus 5. From the second one here, I can factor out minus 2. I would also be left with 2x minus 5. Okay, so the next thing will be to pick the ones outside as one solution. So that's x minus 2. And 2x minus 5 are the second solution. So for those of us who are just trying to learn this for the first time, the reason why we can do this is because if I'm going to expand this, I would have to use x first to multiply this, which is what you have on the first hand, and then use minus 2 to multiply this, which is what you have on the second side. So basically, I'm not breaking math. It's actually true. But as a shortcut, I would say you don't want to always constantly think about that. Just have it at the back of your mind that once you've expressed it in this form, if what you have in both brackets are the same, which they should be, then you pick out the outside numbers, write down, and then this one you put down there. Okay, so at this point, this is where I said if both of them multiply to give you 0, then one of them must be 0. So our solutions would be x minus 2 is equal to 0, or 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. So this would become x is equal to 2, or 2x rather is equal to 5. So x is equal to 5 over 2, or 2.5. So those are your solutions: 5 over 2 or 5 over 2 or 2. Yeah? So the first solution we got was 2. Second solution we got was 2.5. So what I want you to do is you can plug these numbers back into the equation and see that you will get, it works out for you to get 0. Okay, let's have the second question. So we have x squared minus 2x plus 2 is equal to 0. x squared minus 2x plus 2 is equal to 0. Minus 3x rather. Okay. All right. We have x squared minus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. Again, please pause, try the question out before you play. Pause, try it out. Even if you get stuck, it's fine. It's better you get stuck, you come to figure out what you got wrong than to just play it through. Okay, let's move on. Yep, it's in the standard form. Okay, so I would have to have, I'll just bring out a as 1, b as -3, and c as -2, right? So I'm going to drag out my back. My a by c will give me -2, or my b is -3. So what two numbers would work? The numbers are, hold on, I can use -3 and +1. No. Oh, okay, my bad. I have the equation wrong. This is +2. Okay, so hold on. Yep. Okay, so now I have the equation right. It is, so that would be +3, and I believe -2 and -1. It happens sometimes, so don't judge. -2 and -1, right? So -2 and -1. So if I multiply -2 by -1, I get +2. If I add them up, I get -3. Okay, moving on, we have x squared. So -2x minus 1x plus 2 is equal to 0. So we use this to replace the number in the middle, and then we can now factorize. From the first side, I can drag out x minus x bracket x minus 2. From the second one, I can drag out -1 to give me the same x minus 2 is equal to 0. So check, if you've done it properly, you should have the same thing in the bracket. The next thing would be x minus 1 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. At this point, we have two solutions, right? So we equate each of them to 0. We would say it's either x minus 1 is the culprit that is equal to 0, or x minus 2 is a culprit that is equal to 0. So we'd have x is equal to 1 or x is equal to 2 as our solutions. So the solutions to this are x is equal to 1 or 2. Good. Next we have, so I'm going to be a bit faster now because I feel like you should have gotten the hang of it. You can pause the video and try to solve the remaining two. Okay, and I'm good to go. Okay, the sum of a number and its square is 72. So that would mean x squared plus x. So the sum of a number and its square, so this is a square and this is a number, is 72. Good. So find the number. All right. 72. So we need this side to be 0, right, to have it in standard form. So if I move the 72 over, I would have x squared plus x minus 72 is equal to 0. So you can pause it again. If that was your hang up, you can pause it again and start to try to figure it out. So I'm going to drag out my a is my a is 1, my b is 1, my c is -72. They should multiply to give me -72, but add up to give me 1. Those two numbers would have to be 8 and 9, but -8 and +9. Okay, so I'll substitute there. I would have x squared minus 8x plus 9x minus 72 is equal to 0. So bam, I can drag out x from the first side. So x brackets x minus 8. From the second one, I can drag out 9, x minus 8. So notice again that they're the same thing in the bracket, which means I dragged out +9. So I have x plus 9 multiplying x minus 8 to give me 0. So that means x is equal to minus 9 or x is equal to 8. All right, final question would have x squared minus 10x plus 5 is equal to minus 2. If I push the minus 2 over here, I would have x squared minus 10x plus 7 is equal to 0. Okay, so a is 1, b is negative 10, c is 7, so my back, b is c, ac is 7, b is AC is 7, B is minus 10. So what two numbers can I use? Okay, there are no numbers. So basically, right, here's the idea. Factorization as easy, I feel like is probably the easiest, right? As easy as it might seem, but the problem is that it doesn't solve all quadratic equations. Right, so that's just the problem with factorization, but it's actually a very cool tool to use because you would use it for, I think it's the one you'd find most useful as to how it applies to, the maths you do later on. But in the whole idea of quadratic equations, solution to quadratic equations itself, you don't want to depend on only factorization. You need to have a number of, maybe you could add at least, you should be very good with at least maybe formula method or completing the squares, or all three also. The reason why I'm saying all three also is because sometimes you could be in situations where they would insist on the type that you would use, or the question structure would make it such that you have to use a particular type. That's one. And then secondly, perfecting the squares or completing the squares is actually the method that gives you the most insight into quadratic equations or quadratic functions. So you must know completing squares. So in fact, you know what? You have to know all three of them. You have to know all of them. So just forget everything I said. Just learn all three of them. All right. It's always fun hanging out with you guys. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.